Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Kinds of Kindness, starring Emma Stone, Jesse Plemons, Willem Dafoe, Margaret Qualley, Hong Chow, Joel Alwyn, Mamoudou Athie, forgive me if I said that wrong, and Hunter Schafer, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. Now, before I get into this movie, sorry I'm a little late to this recording, but I'm gonna just say it now. Welcome back to Yorgos Lanthimos, because I reviewed his movies leading up to Poor Things before. Now all I gotta do is catch up with the guy's work. And I'm not proud of it, but we'll see how this goes. Let's get into the movie. The movie tells three different stories as we start. The first story being called The Death of RMF, as it starts with Vivian, played by Margaret Qualley, bringing in someone to run over and kill someone in a car crash. As it took me in my second viewing to fully realize that he was hired by well, anyways, as we as he was hired by Raymond, played by Willem Dafoe, to be ran over by Robert, played by Jesse Plemons, and as an opener could have worked if it weren't for the score by the piano, which was very distracting, as director Yorgos Lanthimos makes the score terribly distracting, as Robert goes to the helicopter rather quickly, as we move on to him going home to his wife Sarah, played by Hong Chow, as he wakes up in the morning and has breakfast with her and sees Robert has been injured while reading Anna Karenina, which was a request by Raymond himself, as Raymond gives Sarah and Robert as something as a gift, which happens to be a smashed racket. And if it were me, I would throw it away, as it was smashed. Robert looks outside his office and sees New Orleans, which is where the movie was filmed, and goes to Raymond's office at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And do I like the characters? Honestly, I don't care for any of them, as I like Jesse Plemons and Willem Dafoe as actors, but the three characters that feel wasted by this movie. Robert is in Raymond's office, as Raymond is his boss, and they are talking about keeping his hair do longer, and he has to lose weight, and says he needs to gain some pounds, and Robert will be joining Raymond to a trip to Munich, Germany. And Robert apologizes to Raymond as his back hurts, and Raymond asks Robert to repeat the car crash 2 days later in order to please Raymond. And as Robert goes to the bar, going to Raymond's house, and is greeted by Vivian and asks him to repeat his coming in and sitting down twice, and third time's the charm. And Robert apologizes to Raymond, saying he can't do it, and Raymond is disappointed as he doesn't feel Robert's love. And I thought, come on, get to the fucking point of the scene at this point. Raymond fires Robert because his boss wants him to run over the RMF. And what kind of a boss wants his employee to run over another man? As that was kind of stupid. But hell, this whole movie is so fucking stupid and absolutely unnecessary for director Yorgos Lanthimos' filmography. Raymond breaks into Robert's house and takes some of their stuff back to Raymond, as he knows the code to the alarm, as it was his birth year, which happens to be 1962. And he confesses to Sarah he was in love with Sarah, as Raymond forced him to marry Sarah, and the reason they can't have a child because Raymond paid some doctors to not have them have a child of their own. And Sarah is very upset with Robert as she leaves the house. And this movie is well shot, but unfortunately a very strange movie. And I kept in mind it's the style of director Yorgos Lanthimos, and he makes all his movies very fucking strange. As Sarah quits swimming lessons with Will, played by Mamoudou Athie, and he learns Raymond is with Sarah in Munich, and Vivian is in the house, and Robert barges in and asks her if the three of them are fucking one another, and she randomly slaps him for a damn good reason, and Robert is upset to the point he talks with Mr. Smith and goes to his office for a job and denies seeing Robert at this point, while the score is fucking distracting. And the characters are terrible, as I don't like any of them. Robert makes an ass out of himself as he met Sarah by hurting himself and tries to do it again with another woman who ignores him and spies on Raymond, so he tries to get his job back twice as he's humiliating himself, and he goes back to the bar and spots Rita, played by two-time Oscar winner Emma Stone, in her third film by director Yorgos Lanthimos in a row, and after The Favorite and Poor Things, as he sees she's fine in this movie, but as he sees her as she sees he hurts himself and takes him to the hospital, and she takes him to the hospital, goes up to her and gives her flowers to thank her for helping him out as he asks her out for dinner the next day. And I'm thinking, this guy's very creepy at this point, and I'm thinking, I don't trust him at all. Robert gets to Rita's house as she's not at the house, as she texts him saying she was at the hospital, and she's fine, and he goes to the hospital to visit Rita as Raymond and Vivian are there, as he hides from them, and she explains she crashed a blue BMW, which is the same goddamn car Robert ran over in the beginning of the story. And he walks Rita to the bathroom, and before she gets out of there, he steals her keys and takes her back to bed, and as she's not walking very well, and he leaves to go to her house, which freaked me the fuck out, as this motherfucker is a creeper. Because he goes to her address and looks for the things Raymond gave him, as he steals the smashed racket he got earlier in the story, and he walks to the bathroom by a hospital nurse who walks him there, and somehow off screen, he knocks him out and takes his clothes to visit the man in the blue BMW, while someone thinks he looks suspicious as he kills the man with the BMW by running him over twice, which was fucking random for damn sure. As this whole goddamn movie is random as hell. Robert goes to Raymond and Vivian's house as he tells them he did the job and he didn't disappoint Raymond, and they laid together as this story's credits roll, and I'm thinking, are we in the recent Wes Anderson movie I just reviewed not all that long ago? As that felt weird to me. And we get the next story called RMF is Flying, as we see Daniel, played this time by Jesse Plemons, eating some food as his black cat, who looks adorable, comes on the table with him and gets a call from someone whom he can't hear, as Daniel is a police officer and his wife Liz, also played by Emma Stone, is out of the country as his partner. Neil talks with the police chief, and Daniel says the suspect was looking at him funny, and Daniel asks Neil for him and his wife Martha, also played by Margaret Qualley, to come over for dinner, and we hear a clue that Liz won't eat chocolate, as later in the story she eats the chocolate cake Martha brought over, and it took me my second viewing to remember she can't eat chocolate cake, and she eats the chocolate cake, and they watch a video of Daniel, Neil, Martha, and Liz fucking each other, and there's the fucking nudity that director Yorgos Lanthimos does best, as that was completely unnecessary and very fucking random. And I can't believe 6 months after Poor Things, director comes up with this bullshit? Jesus Christ. Daniel gets 2 phone calls, as the first wasn't talking, and the second one we get a call by saying Liz is alive in the same hospital as the first movie, and Daniel walks in to see Liz with George, also played by Willem Dafoe, as she came back with Jonathan, who is about to lose his own leg, and gets his wife Sharon, also played by Hong Chow, talking with Daniel about Jonathan and Liz, as Liz is brought home in the car and the cat hisses at her like it doesn't like her, and she wants to eat chocolate cake, and that's how I figured out on my second viewing that she's a different person, because the real Liz doesn't eat chocolate, and there's things I picked up on my second viewing, and I don't ever want to revisit it again after the second viewing, while Liz is acting very strange, like she wants to smoke a cigarette, for example, as she doesn't smoke at all while eating dinner, and afterhand, Daniel chats with Neil about how different Liz has acted. And this movie's acting is pretty good in my opinion, but it's not my favorite performances by these actors. Daniel is running late as Liz wants to fuck him, as she hits him with his club in which belongs to Daniel. And we move on to the night Liz gets an award for surviving what happened to her out of the country, while George tells him he's making her feel bad. And she sees Jonathan as he doesn't remember Liz. And Daniel chats with Sharon, her husband, is a completely different person, as Daniel transfers the entire balance from the joint account they had on their personal account to his personal account. And he eats dinner with Liz as he's not hungry, and he gets a call from someone who happens to be the real Liz. And Daniel continues to not eat while Liz takes his phone and puts it somewhere. And she says she's pregnant, as Daniel doesn't feel excited, as he wants her out of the house, as she doesn't want to leave. And this is ridiculous at this point. A couple of drunk drivers are pulled over by Daniel and Neil, and he finds the phone and asks the woman questions about why he dies. Why does she have his phone? And the guy gets shot in the finger, and he tastes his blood like he's a fucking cannibal for some reason. As Neil is afraid of Daniel at this point, and Daniel goes home to Liz as he still doesn't eat anything, as George speaks badly about Daniel to Liz, and she slaps him to tell him never to speak badly about Daniel ever again, while he's led to believe there's something not right about him. And Liz tells him about a dream she had at this point, being she needed to eat something instead of surviving to death, which was a powerful monologue, but being told by Emma Stone. And she is a very good actress, in my opinion. And he asks her to make some meat and to include one of her thumbs at this scene, which was so fucking painful to watch. And I had to look away. Normally, I don't look away unless if it's too far. But this movie takes it way too fucking far. As she passes out, and afterhand she cooks it and feeds it to Daniel, as he doesn't eat the thumb. He gave it to the cat. And what kind of husband is Daniel, as he asks for her finger to eat, as that's not a good marriage at all, as it's terrible storytelling by director Yorgos Lanthimos. What the fuck is he doing? Daniel sees the doctor about Liz, while Liz sees the baby doctor, and she says Daniel hit her, which I'm calling bullshit at this point, unless there's a deleted scene in which he did, but I haven't seen him hit her, as I was calling out bullshit, as this was reminding me of the Tommy Wiseau line in The Room. If anybody doesn't know that movie, go check it out on YouTube. It's pretty funny, in a bad movie kind of way, but it's still entertaining, where he says he did not hit her, oh hi Mark. As that felt like a cliche, so Liz calls George, telling him she and Daniel are going somewhere, and she gets home while the cat is cuddling next to Liz, and Daniel says he's famished and wants something filling like her liver and some other body part, and she cuts her stomach open to get her liver out, and she passes out dying on a chair, and we suddenly see the real Liz come home, as the faker is dead, and the credits roll in the second story. And we see a dog in the credits, and I thought, what in the actual fuck is this story? As this story is probably the worst I've seen, as it was so fucking painful to watch. The next story, called RMF Eats a Sandwich, we get Emily, played once more by Emma Stone, as a doctor, and her nurse Andrew, played once more by Jesse Plemons, taking a body test with Anna, played by the Hunger Games Hunter Schafer from The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, while the morgue nurse, played once more by Momodu Athi, tells Anna to awaken the dead body, as she's not the one who can resurrect Martin Lowe. And Emily and Andrew walk out and drives her purple car, as Emily drives like a fucking maniac. And this is the kind of thing that will get her arrested. And she confesses to Andrew she was stuck in the bottom of the pool, and sees one of the two women saving her life, as she knows who it is, and she and Andrew are at a motel. And I was distracted this entire story by Emma Stone's eyebrows, as it was bothering me, despite she did just do Poor Things and successfully won her second Oscar, as Emily spies on her ex-husband Joseph, played by Joel Alwyn, and her daughter. And this story is so far the best, and it's adequate at best. Emily and Andrew go to the mansion of Akka, played once more by Hong Chow, and Omi, played once again by Willem Dafoe, and Akka's son wants to show Emily his hedgehog as they talk to Andrew about who he wants to have sex with that very night. When they arrive and he says Ami, and Emily and Andrew both have sex with Ami, as Ami kicks Susan out of the room and Emily starts to have some kind of sex with Ami, while Andrew is waiting outside of the room and with some parrots as he listens to them, and Susan tests if she's been contaminated, Susan I mean. And luckily she's not, as I was getting vibes from Midsummer, the Ari Aster movie, during that scene, which was not a good thing in my opinion, as if you don't remember nor have seen my review of that movie, I didn't like it. So that was weirding me out while making me completely uncomfortable. Emily goes on a boat with Ami as Emily is given the tour around the boat by Ami, as he says Jack is reminded of Santa Claus if at the ocean, while Emily and Andrew are in a restaurant and Rebecca, played again by Margaret Qualley, in an unrecognizable hairdo, explaining her sister Ruth's situation, as Ruth, played once again by Margaret Qualley, as Rebecca gives Emily her address and phone number, as Emily thinks this might be it, while Andrew believes she's insane, and Joseph and the daughter visit Emily, as she has to go to work and force her to have dinner with them, as they really miss her, and we move on to the same motel Emily and Andrew stay at, as she visits a man who had two daughters who died in two different ways, as they died at two different ages. And Andrew has a fever of some kind and Emily gets to the pharmacy as Joseph asks her to come to the house in the evening, while the daughter hurts herself in the foot from ballet, which seems painful, as this is the best acted story in my opinion. Emily goes to the house and sees the daughter as well as Joseph, as he asks her for a drink, as he poisons it, and after she drinks it, he rapes her, and it'll lead her to becoming contaminated, as what Joseph did to her completely is completely fucked up in so many ways. As she wakes up the next day going to the car with Ami, Andrew, and Akka, and they find out she has been contaminated and is kicked out of their cult, and she tries to be decontaminated, while humiliating herself by making an ass out of herself. And that may be the weakest moment of Emma Stone's performance, in my opinion. Rebecca visits Emily in her motel room and explains what happened to Ruth, as Rebecca hurts her head as she survives surprisingly, because she had no scratch on her whatsoever, and Emily comes off by Ruth's work by briefly cutting a dog's paw, not off, but briefly cut, and takes it to the vet Ruth works at, and after curing the doggy, she lets it go, and she drives back to the motel, and Joseph brings her their daughter as she says hello to her, and tells her to stay away from her father, who happens to be Joseph, and he's contaminating, and the next day comes, and gets a call from Rebecca, and goes to the house, and she suddenly kills herself right out of the fucking blue, which was completely fucking random. There's the randomness of director Yorgos Lanthimos. And she goes by Ruth's veterinarian office as they talk to each other, and Emily gives her a scarf to thank her for helping out the doggy, as she asks Ruth if she could try the scarf on, as she puts a needle in to knock her out, and Emily shows Ruth the dead body of Martin Lowe, and she touches it, and his eyes open, and he rises as she dances. And credits roll during that as she continues to drive like a fucking maniac and accidentally kills Ruth by hitting something as she was grabbing water for Ruth. She wasn't wearing a seatbelt, but Emily was. As she survives, in the middle of the credits roll, and we see the RMF eating some food with ketchup as he makes a mess out of his uniform, and the climax made me think this is the least impressive from Yorgos Lanthimos' filmography, as this is the weirdest fucking movie ever, in my opinion. Now it's time for my rating. I'll give this movie a 3.8 out of 10. The movie is well shot and pretty well made, but honestly, the score is fucking distracting, like very distracting. And I don't like any of these characters, and the three stories are just weird as hell. And I had to keep in mind it was director Yorgos Lanthimos, as he makes every single movie of his way too fucking weird. It's random as hell, and I can't believe 6 months after Poor Things, which, by the way, I gave a middle of the road recommendation. Came out and he comes out with this bullshit, as there's nudity in this movie, as Poor Things didn't have enough nudity in it. Like, trust me, it does. And the acting in this is pretty good, but it's not my favorite performances by these actors. This is the least impressive of Yorgos Lanthimos' filmography, as Poor Things is the best of the movies he's directed. As this one was painful to watch, as this is a non-recommendation, as this is the most fucked up way a movie can go. So if you've seen Yorgos Lanthimos' previous movies and did not like them, and I didn't, then don't bother seeing it. But if you are a fan of his work and enjoyed seeing his previous movies, then it'll not be the best Yorgos Lanthimos' work, as I find it the least impressive. I mean, Jesus. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, for coming back for Yorgos Lanthimos. Until he makes another film, what is going on?